Dear friends on the dais and dear friends on the floor of the house. So, good morning to all of you. I'm very happy to be here to share my views on the Smart City Initiative and to hear from you. And I would like to thank Ravi Gupta and elets for giving me this opportunity to use you as a part of the brainstorming exercise. So in the Ministry of Urban Development right now there's a lot of brainstorming, churning going on the concept of smart cities and how it is to be nuanced and in a typical bureaucratic way how it is to be operationalized. I'll take you through some of the steps. Dr. Jagan Shah is also very much a part of it, so I'm going to steal some of the thunder from his talk. I had a look at his lecture notes, so I'm going to take away some of his jokes and all. So okay, what is smart cities? Let me just quickly take you through it. Smart cities as a concept, came up in about 2010. And initially the concept was, those newfangled cities of Masdaq in Abu Dhabi and Songdo in South Korea. Absolutely glitzery, very high-tech stuff, everything provided through, IT facilities and digital data and what have you. Absolutely newfangled greenfield cities. But that somehow did not take off. Both the cities ran into problem and there are delays both for Masdaq in Abu Dhabi and Songdo in South Korea. So the world finally realized in 2013 that newfangled greenfield cities with a lot of glitzy ICT is not the way to go. The way to go forward is brownfield cities, and the smartness has to come from the way up. And arguably the two smartest cities in the world at the moment, as Singapore and London, they're getting smart from the way up. And the examples are their transport system. Singapore with its congestion pricing, and London with its phone application, where every office worker gets up in the morning, takes his phone application, and sees which bus or which tram to take, and get off at which station, and then take the next one. So the focus has changed entirely from building newfangled greenfield smart cities to brownfield ones. Well, let me take you through the government, how it happened with the Ministry of Urban Development inside. So we've been talking about smart cities for the last 1.5 to 2 years. We regularly answer Parliament questions. What is the Ministry of Urban Development doing about smart cities? What are your things? So our standard reply used to be, till about 3 months back, that the government promotes smart features like the SCADA system in water supply, like intelligent transport system in the urban transport, and what have you. That used to be a standard reply. And I remember in answering one of the Parliament start questions, I'd gone to my minister, the Minister of State, and I told her, as bureaucrats we go and brief our ministers. Then she asked a very pertinent question. She took out her mobile phone and said, Anand, this is a smartphone. Can you tell me the exact features of a smart city? That stumped me a bit, and we are still struggling with that answer even now. With Jagan Shah and his cohorts also trying to help us. But that exact nuancing and definition of smart city is still there. Our colleague there gave us some very good slides on the smart city, and that will be useful for us. So where do we stand on the smart city thing? So the new government has announced 100 new smart cities. We told our minister 100 new smart cities is not on. That's just not possible. It takes about 20-30 years to build a new city. What we have to do is we do not make new smart cities, we make our cities smart. We take our old cities and we make them smart. So that there's a general agreement on that. So the now agreement has been reached that the larger focus will be on making the existing cities, making them smart. Of course, there's another strand of smart cities that's like in the Delhi-Mumbai industrial corridor. There are about 7 cities, Dholera and around there, which will be absolutely new. So those are urban industrial complexes using a different organizational mode, a different sort of SPV, where a lot of municipal functions will be harvested in a certain SPV, and they'll be given a lot of work to do. So those 7-8 cities are on a different track. The ones on the Delhi-Mumbai industrial corridor, those are also smart cities. Those are smart cities on the urban industrial complex. The smart cities the Ministry of Urban Development is concerned with is what we say in the budget, those 100 smart cities and whatever. And there's a lot of struggle going on how to define those 100 smart cities. The jury is still out, we're still struggling with it, but the broad thing is maybe the 65 GNURM cities which used to be there, plus some more religious cities and some other cities that might make up the 100 smart cities. But that decision is yet to be taken. In fact, our secretary met Mr. Dipen Mishra, PS2 PM yesterday, and there were some deliberations are on a daily basis, and hopefully within a week or so the final plan will come out. Which are the 100 smart cities? Which is the way to go about it? A lot of debate on should the center do a lot of hand-holding? Should we devise the city smart plans? Should we leave it to the states? I mean, I can argue till the cows come home on the benefits of both. But the consensus, not consensus, the majority opinion seems to be, at least in the ministry, that's not the final opinion, that it's better if the center does a bit more of that, hires the best consultants on the ground. But of course, there will be a public face to the body, hires the best consultants, and then helps the state governments devise city smart plans. But sometimes it's thought, and I'd like to take your opinion on that, including our Lady Mayor, that if you leave it to the state governments, there are too many considerations at play, too many local factors at play, and it might be a good thing, but it might be too much of a good thing, and it might take too much time. So even the city and the state governments come and tell us, please, the way the federal structure works in this country, sometimes the tough decisions are easy to take if it's pushed through from the center. That's the political economy of a federal economy. So there are state government, there are municipal bodies which come and tell us, please take the slightly unpleasant or slightly tough decisions at the central level, push it in a package with some financial incentives and push it down to us. So but that's still on, and there's a lot of debate going on how to go about it, and we are here, I'll be here throughout most of the day to listen to your experiences, what you have to think about it. So right now, the most important thing in the Ministry of Urban Development going on for the last 5-6 days, which are the 100 cities, who should devise their city smart plans, should there be a central bias to it or should it be left entirely to the state? Finances are not important. In India, we waste too much time talking about resources. I remember I wrote the economic survey chapter when I was in Ministry of Finance in 2004, and Ajay Shah used to be my boss, and we wrote, finances are not the constraint. The binding constraint in infrastructure is that policy kinks and the regulatory framework. Once you get those policy kinks right, once you get the regulatory architecture right, finances will come in. Look at GNURM, 55,000 crores. We hardly spend more than 50,000 crores. Why? Because the capacities are not there in the state government. You go to Jharkhand, you go to some states, it's crying for water supply, sewage sanitation. But the projects don't come through. The detailed project reports which are required. The GNURM, the flagship program, is a demand-driven program. The states, the municipal bodies have to come up with a sort of well-packaged detailed project report. Even that, I'm not saying that, but that is also lacking. So, resources are never a constraint in the infrastructure setup. I would like to play the devil's advocate. There's too much talk on resources. Even for these smart cities, that 7,000 crores is nothing. That is just committed liabilities for GNURM. That money, we'll see how it will come. It will come a lot from the private, from the public. And 7,000 crores announced in the budget is not the only money for smart cities. There's going to be much more. That 7,000 crores is already sort of committed under the GNURM working. So resources, as our secretary also argues, leave the resources at the background. First decide which are the 100 smart cities, who's going to do what is the operational measure through which you devise the city smart plans, who should be doing it. Those are the important issues. Let me remind you of the National Highway Development Program. One fine morning, the earlier Prime Minister decided, I want a golden quadrilateral, I want these roads. And then this typical bureaucrat would have raised their hand, sir, where are the resources? He said, forget the resources. He just called his minister, I think Khanduri was the minister at that time. He said, Khanduri, I want the golden quadrilateral. And that's how the golden quadrilateral came through. So resources, I would like to very sincerely, never a constraint in this setup. We have too much resources, we don't have enough capacities. And capacities is what we are looking for in the smart city framework also. And on the institutional setup, of course, as my friend Rakesh Anjan told you, it's a federal setup. urban development is a state subject and the constitutional amendment is pushed to the municipalities also. But still, the central government is there to provide sort of best practices, advisories, to provide good ideas, smart cities sort of being one of them. And the central government, thanks to the new regime, stands very firmly behind this concept and it's going to be rolled out. Implementation, which has often been the bane of the Indian system, is one thing which we are really going to be very keen on this time. A lot of monitorable targets and things. I remember Jagan was with me when a group from Singapore met us on smart cities about 3 days back, and the leader of the delegation told us one very nice thing. So in Singapore, we are taught implementation is policy. On the second day of our civil service training, they were taught implementation is policy. So all this newfangled ideas about policy and policy will take you nowhere. Let's implement. I was also a faculty at the National Academy of Administration, where these profs from IIM Ahmedabad will come and tell us India is always a problem of policy paralysis by analysis. There's too much analysis going on. Every problem is diagnosed threadbare. The argumentative Indian will debate like till the cows come home, come up with a whole list of issues, the road ahead, scenario 1, scenario 2, sensitive training. But when it comes to implementation, that's where we are lagging. Hopefully, in this new government, implementation is the key, and there's going to be a lot of focus on implementation, including smart cities.